Dr. Jitendra Singh, a most hearty welcome to PTI. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you indeed. A pleasure for me too.
So you wear many hats in the government. Two of those hats are space and atomic energy. Now, just yesterday, Shubhanshu Shukla has returned to Earth from the International Space Station mission. How does it boost our space program? In what way is it beneficial for us?
No, certainly in more ways than one. Of course, technologically it does boost. It does give us a tremendous amount of experience, expertise for our future voyages. Also puts us in a better position for collaborations at a larger level internationally. But most of all, it also sends out a huge message across the globe. They look here. Now India is come of age as far as the space sector is concerned. And of course, after Chandrayaan 3, it was more than proven that we were standing as a first-line nation. But after the success of this mission, and after what Shubhanshu has conducted on the space, the kind of experiments, the first of its kind, indigenous experiments, it's also sent out a message that India today is ready to accept challenges. And challenges which don't have any instances or precedents in the past, which require tremendous amount of courage and courage of conviction also. So that speaks volumes about India's capabilities, capacities, and also potential to move on to the next level of performance.
What will that be? Will it be made in India rocket going up?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, our Gaganyaan is totally made in India. Right from nut and bolt up to the persons going on board are going to be Indians. Of course, the earlier mission which happened in 1984, Rakesh Sharma's, was a Soviet mission. This one, of course, was again another mission.
Private, yeah.
But that one is going to be totally indigenous, developed in India, right from the scratch. And of course, the Indian astronauts going in for the first time in an Indian spaceship.
That'll be quite an achievement.
Of course, that will not only an achievement, it would also place us in that elite league of nations of the world who have actually been able to do so, and it would also pave the way for our future endeavors, which includes setting up our own space station, like for example, where Shubhanshu went last week or last 2 weeks was not a space station set up by India as such, as all of us know, but now we are looking forward to have a space station of our own.
Okay.
And as we have envisaged for ourselves, most likely it would be possible by the year 2035, and we have also decided to name it as Bharat Space Station.
Okay. Will that also be an international space station? I mean, it will be
No, it will
by
be,
us,
the name will be Bharat Space Station, but then depending upon the kind of experiments, the kind of voyages being conducted, it could sometimes also involve foreign component by way of experiments or even by way of human resource.
Sure. If you could give a very short message to the critics who are saying that Shubhanshu Shukla was just a passenger. We paid $70 million to Axiom to take
No,
him.
absolutely not. I think there is some kind of a lack of understanding. In fact, he was the most important player of the four. Peggy, the commander, is of course a veteran. She's 65 years plus, and she's been up and down so many times.
Yes.
So she was there, like a class monitor. Whereas Shubhanshu was the pilot and also performing the bulk of the experiments that were performed on board.
Right.
Of course, there were some of the experiments were being found otherwise also, but the most vital experiments which are directly related to life sciences, also to the possibility of human sustenance or the living being sustenance in microgravity conditions were performed by Shubhanshu Shukla, not only in the case of human sustenance, but also in the case of plant sustenance.
Right.
And that is something which is going to yield inferences which are going to be used by the entire world. That's why yesterday, soon after the splashdown happened, I said this is one of the first bright instances of what Prime Minister Modi envisages for us, the role of Vishwa Bandhu. Shubhanshu has conducted experiments, indigenously developed in India, performed by an Indian. But the benefits of this are going to be provided to the entire mankind across the planet.
Excellent. We opened up our space sector to the private sector in 2020. Are you happy with the progress of the participation by the private companies?
No, certainly, because I wonder why this decision was not taken earlier. And I believe that possibly I think the single most important person who could be credited for this is again Prime Minister Modi, because we had all the talent, we had all the capacities, we had all the potentials, we were having human resource in abundance. What we lacked was the kind of patronage and an enabling milieu which is to be provided by the political dispensation. But since most of the political dispensations are, conditioned to function in status quoist
Yes.
situations, they don't, like to take out of box decisions. For the first time, we have a prime minister who is known to break the taboos of the past. So when this was put across him, he did not take a minute to allow us. And that is, and I think the outcomes, because now today we live in an evidence-based era, the outcomes are there for everyone to see. Within 3-4 years, there's been a quantum leap in our space journey.
Yeah.
For example, we were just one figure startup till about 3-4 years back. Today we are more than 300. Our space economy was almost negligible, not even worth mentioning. Today, suddenly we've gone up to $8 billion US, and the pace of the rise of this graph is so fast that our projections indicate that in next 8-10 years we'll be going up by almost 5-6 times. That means about 40-45 billion US.
45 billion US.
Yes, which in other words means that when India moves on from economy number 4 to economy number 3, which is going to happen shortly in the next few years, and then the most important ranking of number 2 and number 1.
Yep.
Space sector is going to be an important component, adding value to our economic growth in the future.
Let's go to your other hat, atomic energy. We have also decided to open the civil nuclear sector, but there need to be a few legislative changes before we do that. Is there a plan to make some amendments to the Atomic Energy Act?
No, certainly, as you said, and just picking up from my answer to your last query, opening up nuclear sector was a decision even more difficult than opening up space.
Yes.
But again, it's been possible only because of Prime Minister Modi's personal indulgence, because nobody, gets into this. And even the nuclear sector stakeholders are conditioned to work behind a veil of secrecy. They feel now this is the norm. And so also the society and the nation, so nobody demanded also. But now when Prime Minister and this government lays down before itself the target of rank 1 in India, we also have to realize, and mercifully we've already realized, that if we have to move on to that pedestal, our strategy has to be global, because we are going to meet the global benchmarks.
Yes.
So global strategies require us to move in an integrated fashion, devoid of silos. And therefore, we are now following the same course as is being followed by the other developed countries.
Right.
And therefore, we are opening up to the private sector. As you rightly mentioned, this is the first of its experience of its kind, and therefore we would have to, the announcement has already been made in the budget, but we'll have to frame rules, also possible legislation to actually move on, which will take a lot of consideration, a lot of introspection.
But what can we expect in the upcoming parliament? You know, the big problem was the Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act, which has always been a stumbling block for our...
No, but India's position was very clear. Only thing that there's somehow the skepticism on the part of the suppliers. It was soon after this government came in, we made it abundantly clear, not once but more than once, that look here, this is a misplaced apprehension, that supplier will have to bear the entire onus.
Right.
The first onus would be falling on the operator, then on the supplier, and then after a certain limit, we have an insurance pool which also would come to the rescue, and finally the government also. We are also a party to the UN agreement, so there were safeguards in place. But in spite of that, there was some apprehension somehow gone across, which, of course, as you said, came in the way of the investments happening as freely as they should have happened. But now, with this new decision having come in, I think we'll have to think of ways to also facilitate that.
Yeah, ironically, it was the BJP which had forced the Manmohan Singh government to impose all these strict restrictions.
No, even today we are not against that. In fact, we have defended that, defended it very reasonably. There's a logic and rationale behind all these amendments which have happened. It's just that the suppliers, most of them private, and most of them from the other countries
Yeah.
had their own apprehensions from a business point of view.
Sure.
So I'm sure in course of time we'll be able to address that, also able to satisfy them and reassure them to venture in.
But it is very critical for our energy needs. It's very critical that we have operators coming from France or United States. Or
No,
UK.
certainly, because as I said, if you have to move on to that pedestal, then
Correct.
we have to open up. That's as we have done in the
Yeah.
space sector. We have now investors domestically, investors from abroad. We all also have the FDI investment.
Yeah.
So it's all open now.
So you're sending a very positive, modern message to the rest of the world that India is now open for business. The past is not a yardstick that we should be measured by, and the future is what holds.
No,
for them.
exactly. Actually, I think this government has given up that inhibition, or reservation, or skepticism, which was being exercised by the earlier governments vis-a-vis private sector.
Right.
And that has given tremendous amount of confidence to the private sector. But now what is happening is that even the private sector did not expect that there would be a government in place one day headed by Prime Minister Modi, which will suddenly open up space sector, which will suddenly open a nuclear sector.
yeah.
So they were not prepared. So now they have to prepare themselves. Rather, the private sector within India, domestically, will also have to rise to the occasion, to rise to that level of capacity building
Yeah.
where they could actually collaborate with the government and make use of all this facility which is being provided by the government.
So
And I'm sure this will happen in course of time.
It will happen. So you're saying the government is completely open, is open for business in these sectors.
Yes,
There
it's
is no,
open.
There
in
are no
business
restrictions
within
at
the
all.
framework that has been put
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah. You represent Jammu. You hail from Jammu. I've got a question related to Jammu Kashmir. Today, Mallikarjun Kharge and Rahul Gandhi have written to the Prime Minister asking for full statehood for Jammu and Kashmir in this Parliament session.
No, I think that question doesn't carry much relevance for the simple reason that more than once Prime Minister Modi has himself said, in not once but more than once,
Yeah.
in also publicly in some of the public rallies, that the government of India is committed to provide statehood to Jammu and Kashmir, and it will happen at the appropriate time. So I think after what has been said by the Prime Minister of India, there is no need to add to what has been said by him.
But हमने तो सुना है कि इस पार्लियामेंट सेशन में वो होने वाला है शायद.
No, that I am not privy to that because I don't speak out of turn. But nevertheless, when Prime Minister says, I think we have every reason to trust what he says.
Yeah. So you are not giving any specific timeline.
No, I don't think I am mandated to do that. But I would satisfy myself by stopping short of saying or repeating only what the Prime Minister has said.
Fine. What about the demand for a special debate on Operation Sindur, which Trinamool Congress has been also asking?
No, I
and-
can't say because the parliamentary minister will take cognizance of this. But Operation Sindur, as it has gone off very well.
Yeah.
It's been a very evidence-based operation. For the first time, it has evidently placed before the world India's defense prowess. And personally, for me also, it gives a certain amount of satisfaction that most of this warfare was related to the space technology or to the atomic energy.
True.
And even these missiles, all this was developed in the last 10 or 11 years. So that again, the credit goes to this government. The entire technology which was developed, which was used in this Operation Sindur has been developed in the last 1 decade. Even those technologies which were transferred from outside, which we in the technical language refer to as TOTs, the transfer of technologies also happened during this 1 decade.
Yeah.
And this was an occasion when it could be showcased to the rest of the world.
I have a related question to Operation Palgam. The LG Manoj Sinha has sort of taken responsibility for what happened. Does it mean there was a security lapse on the part of the union government?
No,
Intelligence
I can't say that
lapse.
because I think this I would leave this better because we are not sometimes privy to all the inputs that are there available through the intelligence sources with the office of the LG or with the MHA. But nevertheless, barring this incident, it's been an incident-free summer, and there was a huge tourist rush just before this happened.
Sure.
And again, I think from last week onwards, the tourism has seen huge revival
Has boosted
back in Kashmir Valley.
How are your relations with the Chief Minister, Omar Abdullah?
No, I by and large have good relations with everybody.
Everybody, but especially with him.
Fine.
Fine. because he has been saying that there are some obstacles to smooth functioning of the government because of his relationship with the LG, and he says just because I'm being polite to him doesn't mean that I'm weak.
No,
Don't take that.
I don't wish to get into that. I think for that the LG and the CM would be able to give you a better version.
ठीक है. Next month 5 years complete हो जाएंगे आर्टिकल 370 के एब्रोगेशन के बाद में. So in the last 5 years, how do you see things have changed in Jammu and Kashmir after Article 370 was removed?
See, I don't wish to repeat all the physical changes that have happened because that's been reiterated in the media time and again. Of course, all the laws which were not being provided there, the rules which were discriminating against the section of population. For example, the daughters of Jammu and Kashmir did not have the right to the property of their parents if they chose to marry outside the state, etc., which was quite discriminating in this age and time. And then there were some refugees from Pakistan, the erstwhile West Pakistan, who did not secure their citizenship rights for as long as 70 years, in spite of the fact that the same section of population gave India 2 prime ministers and 1 deputy prime minister, Mr. I.K. Gujral, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Mr. L.K. Advani, all of them belong to that section. But here this was a huge anomaly happening, not only vis-a-vis constitution, democracy, but also by the norms of human dignity. So all that stands corrected, but most of all, what is not often discussed is there's a lot of mental union happening.
I see.
So that mental blockade, which tended to create barriers. For example, a citizen from Jammu and Kashmir looked at himself as someone different because he'd been, conditioned like that in his grooming. And those from Jammu and Kashmir saw them differently. So, and also because of the certain conditions which were pertaining to them, not to the others.
Right.
Now there is a sense of belonging. Even in a common citizen of Jammu and Kashmir, there's also a sense of one being among fellow countrymen. And that's the reason you see most of the youth from Jammu and Kashmir are doing very well for themselves across the sectors, across the country.
There is a sense of national connection in
Yes, no. See, they were always, particularly in the Jammu region, there was a huge amount of nationalist fervor right from the beginning. In fact, that is the place which gave stimulus to the growth of Bharatiya Janasangh. And Sama Prasad Mukherjee's first very important movement began incidentally from my constituency. And that is the place in my constituency where he got arrested on the 11th of May 1953. So, but that was always there. But the constitutional barriers which persisted generation after generation after 3 generations, they led to some kind of a conditioning of minds.
That they are separate, they are special,
or they are seen differently, or they are treated differently, or they don't have same accesses as their fellow men outside Jammu Kashmir have. That mental barrier, psychological barrier is gone.
Did Palgam have an impact on that? Because everything was going very well and the integration was happening very, very rapidly and you could see it visibly. Pahalgam has sort of
No, actually, Pahalgam is also a sequel to the Pakistan designs which have been operating right from 1947. So, in fact, Pakistan never reconciled to Jammu and Kashmir being a part of India. That's right from day one. So, they resorted to conventional wars soon after independence. They lodged an attack in an invasion. Then another war in 1965, then another war in 1971. Then they also resorted to infiltrations. Then finally, when Bhutto and Ziaul Haq came, they harped on this new theory of 1,000 wound theory. So they started inner insurgency, by sponsoring terrorism from across the border. So this has been going on. But now we are in a position where peace is no longer bought by appeasement. It is being put in place by a huge sense of conviction on the part of the Modi government.
Peace is not being bought by appeasement.
Yes, through appeasement.
Through appeasement. Then how is it? It is being
because
achieved
I'll try to simplify it by example. Earlier on, they would indulge in talk with Pakistan embassies, try to woo them. Then they would talk to the separatists, try to woo them, and finally end up nowhere. I think Prime Minister Modi's government made a huge departure from this. And the result is that even the erstwhile separatists have fallen in line. So, it's no longer peace bought at the conditions of the others, or laid by the conditions laid down by others. It's the peace by the preference of the government in India or the people of India.
Right. So the holistic policy, which includes the abrogation of Article 370 and the development programs in Kashmir, which have created this.
Even the development suffered, because I personally
yeah.
believe that terrorism and development share a reciprocal relationship. One leads to the other and one disrupts the other.
Sure.
And that has also started happening. Many of the projects, particularly in Kashmir Valley, got stalled because of the conditions that were there.
Yeah.
Many of the road projects, the ring road project, even the rail project, you see, for the first time, this is something anecdotal. For the first time, rail arrived in Jammu and Kashmir way back in 1972. But then we had to wait for more than 5 decades. Again, Prime Minister Modi came in, took a firm resolve that we have to carry the train to Kashmir Valley, which he did so when he flagged off on the 6th of June. So I think this is something which has also been facilitated by the restoration of a semblance of normalcy which was not there. People were even scared of carrying on the development work over there. But now it's moving on with the same pace. And the new Vande Bharat, which Prime Minister flagged off from Katra to Srinagar, which is soon going to be from Jammu to Katra, possibly by the month of September, has its booking for the next 2 months. So you can imagine the amount of enthusiasm, the joy, the jubilation with which people are celebrating this development, icons.
Yes. Dr. Saab, we'll go to your third responsibility, which is DOPT. A lateral entry had become very fashionable. Is the government considering reservations in lateral entry into the government?
No, actually, lateral entry has not been put on hold. In fact, we had institutionalized it. And lateral entries used to happen earlier also, in the earlier governments also. The most prominent lateral entry being, incidentally, that of Dr. Manmohan Singh, who was brought from outside as a principal, as an economic advisor, then defense. But we in fact institutionalized, because earlier on what was happening is that lateral entry would happen by subjective decision, which of course I'm not challenging. Maybe I consider someone capable enough and I get it, and it must be capable also. But there was no institutionalized mechanism laid in place. We set a mechanism in place. We routed it through UPSC. Laid down certain terms, conditions, experience, qualification. So,
But you withdrew it in 2024?
Not withdrawn it. It was that process of selection at that point in time was put off because, as you said, some people said there should be reservation. Now, we had a reason for that also, that in one-on appointments, you don't have reservation. Like, for example, you are looking for a chief editor of PTI. So you cannot have, take a predetermined decision that it has to be a Dalit or an OBC or a general category.
Has to be
and even if you say that I will do it by rotation, look at this year I'll have a Dalit editor, next year I'll have OBC, then subsequent year I'll have general category, then the fallacy in that it will be that, for example, this year I have a Dalit editor, next year I'm looking for an OBC editor, I don't find one in the OBC. So do I leave the chair of editor? So I think this is applicable everywhere, even in the private sector, even in the agency. So these are one-on appointments where you need one expert, for example, who has to be in certain domain. So you can't be, but even in spite of that, there was a view, no, we should try to consider. So I said, okay, we'll give it a fair chance in the true spirit of democracy. If there is any option available, you let us know, you educate us, we'll discuss it out.
But you're obviously not in favor of reservations in lateral entry.
No, we thought it was not feasible.
It is not
but
feasible.
We are still open if there are some options which could be made feasible. That is why we put this on hold. We didn't defer it. We did not halt it, and not has been
scrapped at all.
Not scrapped at all.
It will not be scrapped. It will not be abandoned.
No, it is not.
Lateral entry.
There is no official abandonment, and nobody said that also. Only that process for the timing was put off. We said, look, let us then invite opinions and be open.
I have a question about Puja Kedkar, which became quite a controversy because of the way the certificates, she had obtained certificates of disability and fake income and all that. Has the government been conducting probe into other possible frauds like this?
No, the government has always been doing so. The government has been, there are multiple levels of checks and balances at the UPSC, level, then in the academy also, and later on also when the cadre allocation happens. But you see, this problem is too big to be left only to one agency or UPSC or academy. I think it also has a lot of social bearing. So when you have some, prospective candidates trying to forge certificates, I think the genesis of that malaise is not only rooted in academy or the DOPT, it has a socio-cultural, genesis as well. So I hope all the stakeholders, even the social scientists and the opinion makers would take cognizance of it. As far as we are concerned, the academy and the UPSC and also to whatever extent DOPT is responsible, they have very strict parameters in place.
Okay. I have a question about Lokpal Act. Any judgment or decision by Lokpal Act cannot be questioned, it cannot be appealed, it cannot be reviewed. Is there a move to have the Lokpal Act come under the...
No, not to my knowledge. Maybe if that be so, the law ministry will be able to respond.
Right. All right. Before we retire for a cup of coffee, I've got a question on retirement. Is the government going to reconsider the retirement age in the services?
Right now, there is
At
no
60, at
right
present
now
60.
there is no such discussion. Of course, from time to time, some news items appear
कि
speculative.
62 कर रहे हैं या 58 कर रहे हैं.
As of today, we have no such information about this happening.
But what are your views on how long can a person should work, is
No, I
capable
think
of
that
working?
this is something which has to be, weighed in the context of India.
जी.
You cannot take European parameters. There, of course, the teachers don't retire, the judges don't retire.
Judges don't retire.
But that's a separate society altogether.
Yeah.
Here we have demography issues also. We have issues of livelihood also. We also have issues of putting all kinds of talent into the mainstream of nation building. So everything has to be taken into consideration.
Great. Dr. Jitendra Singh, thank you so much for
Thank you.
talking to
I
us. It has
really
been a
enjoyed it.
pleasure.
Thank you.